scored by Maurice Norman.
Maurice Norman's great strength was his great strength. His physical presence of leaning on the opposition centre forward, climbing a bit higher than he could in the air, getting rid of the ball, strong in the tackle. I mean, just a goalkeeper's prayer, really, that you know, he wouldn't have to come for every ball that came across in the box, because Maurice would be solid in getting rid of it. And it was a straightforward approach to the game, which in the end won him 23 caps.
The country boy, Maurice Norman, moved down from Norwich City, a move which at the time Maurice himself didn't have much of a say in.
Such a quick transfer, you know. I had to make up my mind in that week, you know. Mm-hmm. And the fellow was, the Norwich manager was the old Arsenal fullback. And he said, he called me into his office and he said, "Is somebody after you?" And I said, "Who?" You know, I was only still young, you know. Just come out of the army. And he said, "There's somebody after you. And I think you should think about it. And you got to think of your career, and I'm willing to let you go." So when he said Tottenham, I thought, well, that's it, you know, straight away. And he said, "If you don't go, 2 other players have got to go anyhow, you know, because we need some floodlights, you know, at Norwich." So there it is. That's the first start of coming to this club, this great club, you know.
Renowned at Spurs as the centre-back of the double-winning team, it was actually at full-back where he started his career at Spurs as a replacement for the outgoing Alf Ramsey.
And I wasn't really a full-back, really, you know. I was playing centre-half for Norwich, and that was my best position. But they wanted me as a full-back, and there it is.
But a good, solid, dependable player in the middle, and you know, the spine of a team is always important.
Of course, we had 5 forwards. Everybody on, you know, 5 forwards then, and that's why we scored a lot of goals. But you still had to rally around them at the back. And Maurice, he was superb in the air, good tackler.
No fancy frills, just end the attack, give the ball to somebody else who will do more with it. And he was Maurice Norman. That was his game, and he did it very well. And he was also, I mean, he was brilliant in the air, and. You know, would be a player who would come up for set pieces at the other end of the field too. He was good at that.
Chris was a traditional winger, somewhat lost in the current English game. His ability to beat a man, get to the byline and cross the ball was second to none. But it did take him a while to settle into life at Spurs following his move from Newcastle in 1985.
Chris was another wonderful player, yes, of course. Chris, when he arrived here, he was a little bit, because at the time we used to have a lot of wonderful players. I mean, whoever was coming to our squad, it was not easy for them, because we have a lot of international players, top quality players. So when Chris arrived here, he was a little bit in awe of us, so he didn't produce for quite a while. But then he started to feel himself, starting to have a lot of confidence, and he was the wonderful player that he was.
Chrissy was, I felt, from my own personal point of view as a striker, he was a most fantastic crosser and provider of chances. He was quick, deceptively quick. I think he had an unusual style in terms of his running action. But I always felt from standstill to full speed, Chrissy was one of the quickest that I ever played with. He was a thinker about the game as well, which perhaps people wouldn't necessarily see in him. They just felt because he dribbled the ball, was very, very clever technically with the ball. But he loved the game. You know, I think he was, in my view, very humble about where he come from, what he achieved.
And it wasn't just on the pitch that Chris achieved success, teaming up with teammate and friend Glenn Hoddle to release a pop song, Diamond Light, which hit the heady heights of the top 20 in 1988. After over 170 appearances and over 40 goals for the club, Chris left in 1989 to join Marseille, a club at the peak of their power. Magic Chris, as he was known in France, was voted Marseille's second greatest player of the century, a testament to his impact on the Mediterranean club.
I think if you go to Marseille today and you talk to people
who are Marseille OM fans, they will remember Chris Waddle as one of the best players I've ever played for the club.
To go to France from Spurs as he did and be the player he was on French soil was an incredible achievement, and really for me summed up why he was one of the best wingers I think of all time, because he could provide, he could score, and obviously he took that onto the international stage as well. So a really top player.